Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for yet another series called a webinar series called Apprenticeship Dialogue, where our objective is to create more awareness about apprenticeships, share some of the best practices, your experiences, your opinions, and also to get some recommendation and ideas to see that how we can make apprenticeship more seamless, to scale the apprentices, or to create more talent pipelines for the industry and for the country. About a month back, we launched a report called ROI on Apprenticeships, which was actually a built up over the first edition, that was largely focusing on the certain theories and certain hypotheses basis which we could come up with what the kind of returns that an employer could get by being invested in apprenticeship. But the current one that we launched, the second edition, was very much backed by the industry research that was conducted. About 500 employers were reached out to get their opinions, understand their processes, how are they going about doing it. So there was a lot of qualitative and quantitative analysis which was done to arrive at that report, which kind of, through interesting facts on the productivity, on the hiring cost, and also on the longevity, the kind of benefits that the employers were getting once they were in the apprenticeship once they start investing in the apprenticeship. And one of, my analysis is that investing in apprenticeship is like investing in equities. The longer you remain invested, the higher returns you're bound to get. And that's what very much evident in that report. And that's what the theme for our event is today. That's leveraging on apprenticeship. If you'd like to understand that how your organizations are leveraging on apprenticeship, what's the kind of benefits that you are enjoying, and even if you're not, then what's the purpose of doing it, and how did the thought, kind of triggered, and what do you expect out of the apprenticeships? And any suggestions and recommendations that you would like to give or make here, for others to look into it, to see how they can get started, and how they should get started so that they also can enjoy the similar benefits. So thank you once again. I would like to now introduce our esteemed panel, which comes from a very diverse background. We've got Mr. Rajeev Singh, who is the CHRO for Solara Active Pharma Sciences. We've got Ms. Ritu Bhardwaj Moitra, who's the CHRO for Duroflex. And we've got Mr. Ashish Kumar, who's the Group Company Secretary, the Head Legal and HR for Dixon Technologies India Private Limited. I welcome all of you, and thank you so much for sparing time from your schedules and agreeing to share your thoughts and your experiences on apprenticeship. So let me begin with my first question to all of you, is that how is your organization leveraging on apprenticeship? So Ashish, I know that your organization has been doing apprenticeship for many, many years now. So would want to get started with you to hear that how's your organization leveraging on apprenticeships?
So thank you, Sumit, for your wonderful opening session that you introduced us, and also for giving us an opportunity through this platform to share our views. So with regard to your pertinent question of how are we leveraging on this apprentices, I would say that, it's one of the areas where you get an opportunity to do a talent development for your future pipeline. And also, it's one of your ways you kind of give back to the society. And how, I would just add on a line to that, that you are not only creating an employment opportunity for the society by hiring these apprentices, but also by training them, you are increasing and enhancing their employability. And in a way, you are giving opportunity to the more unprivileged part of the society to come into the mainstream, to join this force, and also to do better in life when they have completed their apprenticeship program. Because as it says, it also involves and inculcates a lot of learning and development throughout the whole process, which the apprentices go through, and it's also called on-job training. So in a way, you are training them, getting them future ready, and at the same time creating an employment opportunity for the society. And what you are also doing is not only that you are doing for yourself, but also for your peers, other industry members, that people, let's say, who was interned or who was done their apprentices with your organization, let's say our organization, and it's not that they get 100% absorbed with us. So those trained manpower, those resources can be then utilized by other peers in the industry. So this is a few things that I can think of and how we leverage at Dixon. So over to you, sir.
Sure. Ashish, would you also like to elaborate what are the job roles that you get covered under the apprenticeships?
So we get, as you see that it's all about, apprentices are taking for loading and for various other things that we do, including that with the new wage code that's being announced, there'd be more flexibility where they can be employed, and also these apprentices as under the Apprenticeship Act are allowed, and that's well documented where they can be employed with. So we use them and engage them as apprentices on those fronts as well. And we have for us in Dixon various verticals. So and we have got a huge number of manpower. So therein it also gives us a bandwidth as per the Apprenticeship Act to employ that many numbers of apprentices. So yes, we employ all facets which is allowed under the apprenticeship.
Sure, good. Mr. Rajeev, same question for you as well. How is your organization leveraging apprenticeship, considering that you have also been engaging with the apprentices under the Act?
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Sumit, and hi, everyone on this webinar. It's really a pleasure to be sharing my insights, and thanks for inviting Sumit for this forum. And it was great to hear from Ashish. I think the basic fundamentals are very much what he talked about, cuts across various industries. Talking about how we have been leveraging, or so far what we have been driving, or I have been looking at or driving through this skill building approach. So the way I look at it is the apprenticeship in isolation is not nothing, but when it gets integrated with overall philosophy of how do I create a skilled society, that is where I think goes beyond the boundaries of your organizational purpose and your very much localized objective. So it is about, if you look at the skill, the society as a skill center, like the pyramid in the society, is a bottom the pyramid that needs more encouragement and more opportunity for employability, and at the same time it's a win-win situation. So the way we have looked at it is that what is it which will help us to create a win-win situation both for the organization, because end of the day organization is supposed to make profit, right? So unless that happens, we are not in a business and we will not be able to entertain any engagement or employment. So that's one part of it. The second part is that how do I contribute more aggressively and more constructively to encourage this skill building. So interestingly, what we have been doing is in fast companies that I have worked for, we have created a very focused approach towards hiring some of the group, and fully knowing that it is a group which is also prone to high attrition. So it's not like if you have hired 100, end of 1 year or 9 months or 12 months, you will remain with 100. It start depleting. So by the same time, that's the fun part of it, because one, that hiring apprentice is quite easy, that you can tie up or you can look around the area that your plant or operations are. At the same time, retaining them becomes difficult after 6 months, 7 months, when they come to know, I mean, from nowhere to the test of corporate life and what happens here. I think that also helps them to aspire for more. And that is where I think one of the reasons for attrition that happens post the training period or post the apprenticeship period. But as a corporate, we are all fine, because even in regular employment also you have 15-20% attrition. So if this is a little bit more than that, that's fine. So the areas, it's important to understand that in a manufacturing location, manufacturing industry, whether it's a pharma where I am today, or whether it was tire industry where I was earlier, or even your oil and gas or hardcore pipe manufacturing. On the shop floor, the requirement of apprentice is one, driven by the compliance with the law, which is Apprenticeship Act. At the same time, beyond that, what is that I want to create some kind of entry for these kind of people who can be my future technician or my future shop floor in charge or supervisors. So like you said, it is like investing in equity, but we also need to be careful that which equity I'm investing in. So and this requires more time to remain invested in. And so I'll say that maybe it is a index fund that I should involve in. So the apprentices are like that. So I need to just keep churning it out on and keep grooming them perfectly. So some of the shop floor hardcore jobs which are always there is like a technician, or your whether it's a welder or whether it's helper for maintenance work, proactive or troubleshooting. Loading, unloading, we don't put there. And we also try to help them with some kind of input on their personality development, as well as in terms of encouraging them for higher education so that they become like a full. So interestingly, we also part of this, we have also tried to create some kind of diversity and inclusion kind of approach. So within this, we do have a separate approach where we hire only female as apprentices. And it was one of the proud moment, which I can quote from my previous organization, Yokohama, where I was working, where one entire shop floor, we hired women apprentices, trained them, and then they are running the show with the first ever plant, which is run by women, right from supervisor to from the sixth to the last person. And they evolve like a self-managed group, So some of those success story, and I guess that was just one thing, but I think all the organizations, they do have this opportunity to create more value than what we are getting from this whole approach of engaging apprentices. And it requires investment, it requires clarity and purpose, and investment to keep doing it. It is not something one-off that I do it and then do it.
Completely agree with you. But interesting thoughts coming from you, Mr. Rajeev, and some interesting examples also coming in from you. We'll kind of sum it up, when this round gets over. Ritu, sorry, I'm coming last to you on this particular question. I've broken the trend which says ladies first, but I purposely kind of deviated it because, your organization is something which is now mulling over and is getting into the system. So while the idea was to let's get their thoughts on how they're leveraging, but from you, I would like to know that what's the thought gone behind to get started with apprenticeships, and how do you intend to leverage apprenticeships?
So I think so. Most of the threads for why apprenticeship thing works for companies, works for people, and all. I think so. It's well covered by Ashish and Rajeev. I'll just give you a brief about Duroflex. So we are a 60-year-old organization, started from Kerala. Now we are a national brand, and in 60 years, we never engaged apprentices in any of the trades. And that maybe we'll come back to in terms of what needs to be done in order to make people know that there is a beautiful program available for the society, for the employers, for the candidates. We'll talk about it a little later. But yeah, it is like the first batch is getting into Duroflex around this time of the year. And the reason behind was first it was a surprise, oh, you didn't have this. So that is why I'm talking about more from my personal story, because Rajeev and Ashish have covered most of it. So my personal thing was why we don't do it. And then it was we never knew about it. So it is okay. So my first experience when I started my career journey, it was with a beautiful organization, Cadbury's. It was known by Cadbury's at that particular time. Now it is Mondelez. So, it was regular practice in the factories to hire apprentices. So that was one. And then it is in another organization, we always hired people who actually have come out of the apprentice program. And both these companies did quite well when we were actually giving the first employment, or we were the second choice after they complete their courses. And this basically worked well. And that gave me a confidence, why not here? And all the other reasons, like talent crunch is already a hot topic, in terms of a win-win, a CSR approach, everything around that just made it a right recipe for us to go ahead.
Great. And how do you intend to leverage this? What's your
So Right. So we are very labor intensive organization, like in terms of the sector that we come up with, it is not so much of a technical skills or a, very rocket science. It is quite a simple process driven thing, and where people are more important in terms of, because there is a lot of pushing, pasting, gluing, all those, which is like just to do with your hands. And this, we are open to get youngsters who have high physical energy. They need not be, they can be semi-literate as well, and they work wonder for our company. So this way we intend to leverage on getting talent at a very short call, because we go by the seasonal ins and outs, like, the high seasons of high demand, and then it tapers down. So this program works quite well for us. We are in zones which are highly industrialized. So Hosur, for example, most of the, like in Tamil Nadu, it is a highly industrialized cities. So, getting talent is quite a difficult task. So again, like getting apprentices to get started over there, it just works for us.
Sure. Great. So I think it's coming out very clearly that how you guys want to leverage on for, apprenticeships is largely to create talent for your organizations. How you have been able to build your your future employees, as Rajeev was also mentioning, that it's about building your future pipeline for your future employees as well. And the job roles as well. It largely looks like that, yes, it's for, you look at more on the manufacturing side of it. So obviously the people who are doing the frontline stuff or at the machine levels or at the ground level is what you want to breed the talent at that level. One question I would like to have a quick question from both of you, from Rajeev and Ashish, is that since both of you have been doing apprenticeship, how much of these apprentices you end up absorbing into employment?
Ashish, go first.
So in terms of percentage, I would be candid here. We have started, I think, although we started not many years back, but still the percentage in terms of absolute is not much. But of course, I would say currently we would be absorbing around 8 to 10%. But
Okay.
of course, this keeps increasing as we go along.
Okay.
But given that one of the challenges, that we face is also the level of attrition. So that again, we are trying to address in a multi-fold way, like, subsidizing the lunch, providing transportation, reaching out to see that, whatever better extra facility that we can provide to these apprentices, and what more learning platforms or apps that we can create. So that's one of the reasons. But again, yeah, that's where we are. Over to Rajeev.
Sure, Rajeev.
Yeah, so interestingly, like I said, most of the apprentices that we have been, or I have been working with, they were direct hire for as to comply with, at the same time, mostly driven by the requirement in the plan setup. And I would say that it was more of a, unless they were leaving us, we were never wanting to, let go any of them, unless there is some performance issue, etc. So I would say that hiring and absorptions was almost 100%.
Oh, fantastic.
But attrition has been more. After 1 year, we always used to lose around 20-25% of the population that we had. And
so which means that whatever 75 pilots that left were inducted in the organization as full-time, as employees.
Yeah. And I'm sure my HR colleagues here in the panel as well as in the audience will also appreciate that many times manufacturing sector relies lots on immigrant workers, which is contract labor, who are supposed to be doing some of those. And some of those things become the great opportunity for apprentices to learn on the go. So you can shadow the same thing, and contract labor compared to our apprentices, they are less reliable because the seasonal characteristics of their disappearance is well known, right? Diwali time, everything is disappeared, or during Holi, lots not there. And that is where I think apprentices also become a very reliable workforce to keep the show going on. So that's another way to look at how I leverage.
Sure. Great. Coming to you, Ritu, since you are just now going to get started on apprenticeships, as an organization, how have you prepared yourself, to accommodate this entire apprenticeships in your organization? So would you want to throw light on that?
Yeah, I think so. It starts like as you rightly told, it is like how long you would like to be invested and all, and the investments are all like starts at the top management, right? So in order to get the buy-in of the top management was one of the important thing in terms of why we are going ahead with this, what is the benefit, and also once that is done, it becomes like a regular program with the organization. So that is the first of the very foundational work that we did. Second is in terms of which are the roles that we can carve out for getting the apprentices in the organization. So that is another pre-work that we have done till now. So these are like the prior to getting them. Then it is all about in terms of finding under whom they would be working in, because the act says anybody from 14 and upward can be a part of your team. So in terms of you need to also identify the right set of mentors, coaches, or supervisor, whatever we say in whatever terms, to identify under whom they would be getting skilled. So that is another way what we are looking at it as a pre-work. Roles, responsibilities, making it very clear. So those are the things. In terms of at that level, it is quite difficult to go for an individualized performance management system. So it is like more of a team. Like what did this team deliver? As I told you, it is like we are quite a simple process industry. For us, it is quite simpler to say, okay, by the end of this shift, 100 mattresses are done by this particular batch, which is an apprenticeship batch and all. So those are the criteria which are quite easy, and we are putting all those in place. So yeah, we look forward to being successful in all that we have done as a pre-work.
No, definitely. I'm sure if the intent is good, the outcome is also going to be good. And it's good to see the way you're preparing the organization from being, creating mentors for them, the infrastructure side of it. I think that's nice to hear that. But as you rightly mentioned, that the message from the top, and it has to get started from there, which is there, for everybody to take it more seriously, this particular agenda. Ashish, what about you? I mean, how is your account? I mean, what are the preparations that you did, or what are the changes that your organization would have gone through when you got started, or have these changes or arrangements evolved over a period of time, considering that you have been engaged with apprenticeship for some time now?
So, Sumit, thank you. As you rightly pointed out, that of course we have started and how we have evolved. And I think Ritu has very well touched upon the points that all as an organization, what you need to get is as a buy-in at the top and also at your various heads level, so that the buying is there and in order for the whole program to succeed. What we have done also in terms of, I would say, once you have started as evolved as a part of evolution process, we have started focusing, although this whole program is on job training and you train the apprentices, but what we are going forward and what we have been really focusing is increasing the intensity, so as to say, of training our manpower, these apprentices, because we want to them to churn out, be as real good trained manpower. And what we have been talking is also engaging with various universities, including yourselves, in terms of the program that you guys have launched, in terms of getting what these apprenticeships can also with the job, can they get some degrees, some form of a certification, which will not only give them an encouragement to work and to learn, but also that enhances their employability. So one thing I would add as a part of evolution process has been the real focus been on creating a right platform, using a right blend of technology that we have started by creating various modules which are online content, encrypted message given to our trainees, which they use it while, let's say, somebody is traveling to the work or going back to their residence, let's say after the work, these apprentices, so they can switch on, and that will say that how much time did they actually spend on reading those contents, going through these various ergonomics videos are there, whether they it's by seeing, learning through visual effect. So those things we are trying to create. So ultimately the whole idea is it has to be a realistic learning, so that their performance is enhanced, their output is enhanced, and we create a real good resource for the future. So that's how we have been working and preparing ourselves in terms of evaluation. And in terms of initial preparation, I think Ritu very well touched on all those points. So over to you.
Sure. Rajeev, would love to hear your thoughts as well on your preparedness when you would have got started. Any of the changes, or like, Ashish mentioned about the evolution, the system that they have evolved over a period of time when they got started and how they are, executing it today. How has your system evolved? How's your organization or the structure has evolved in terms of the doing apprenticeships?
Sure. So, Sumit, I would put it this way, that when I look at apprenticeship in isolation, then yes, that is kind of a different approach. But the way I have been positioning, or we have been working on, is part of our organization-wide talent strategy. And I think that's how it should be viewed at, because it's just not the war for talent, but it's also how much you are investing in grooming your talent and your talent strategy per se, whether you are in pharma or whether you are in manufacturing or any organization. Primarily, it evolves around three factors: buy, build, or borrow. That's only three things. I can buy the talent if it is available. I can borrow them from my group companies, etc., or I can build them over a period of time. So when we have defined our talent attractive strategy, then I need to see that how do I source those talents. Before grooming, I need to get them on board. Therefore, one of the source of getting talent into the organization is apprenticeship.
Okay.
But it's not the only one that I can rely upon. In the interest of the business, in terms of sustainability and other things, you also have campus hiring, which is graduate development program that goes hand in hand. Then you have lateral hiring. So one of the source of building bottom level talent or skill inventory, so to say, is your apprentice. So that was the entire philosophy that got constructed, and then we started doing. So it was not just apprenticeship which started, but parallelly we also got into the campus recruitment program. Start small but expand. And initially, I mean, to be honest, most of the companies, and even somewhere we were also doing in initial stage, just to comply with the law, that so many apprentices need to be hire them, train them, and after that, okay, tick in the box. And I think somewhere, maybe this is the third part of this webinar where recommendation need to be, but somewhere the statutes are such that it confuses people on the ground, including us. So you have one incentive to develop a skill through skill development initiative, Skill India initiative. You have one side of it, which is through vocational training program or vocational trainees, etc. Then you have apprenticeship. Then you have something other, I don't know what all coming. Now, there is a need to streamline this as well, so that we are very focused in what we want to do, how we want to build the skill. But having said that, once we got into this, that we need to induct apprentices in a much more structured and disciplined way, it requires interventions at three levels. One, that it is a matter of manager's time and supervisor's time, or the shop floor guy to invest time in grooming them. So the mindset. So that was one, that you've got to have a development mindset or grooming mindset that you have to build it. And these guys are something who sometimes they don't speak your local language. So that was another challenge, that how do I recruit apprentices which are kind of going to survive in the ocean or in the area that they are going to work, or on the floor. Second, because of diversity of the apprentice group, we needed to create the infrastructure as well. Because mind you, these are fresh. They have not seen the world outside their home. They are protected kids coming right to work for the first time. So creating infrastructure. So one of the thing that we did was to build dormitory, subsidize food, subsidize lodging, boarding, etc. So that they start getting the, excitement of being there away from home, but at the same time being taken care of.
Taken care of, sure.
Never wanted to make it paternalistic, because then it becomes very difficult to keep them happy later on. But at least the minimum taking care of is important. And then obviously a very structured program on 70-20-10 principle that TeamLease and NETAP is also talking about. That's a core. I mean, got to have on-the-go learning and more course correction if it's not falling in place. So to sum it up, it was part of our overall talent strategy, followed by creating the mindset that once we go, whether it's apprentice or graduates or anybody, we have to invest in building the talent over a period of time. And third, that we got to have infrastructure supporting all this. So all three need to go hand in hand. I cannot take one ignoring the other, then it will fail, bound to fail. And to top it up, we also try to build, in fact, we build a skill development center, primarily for developing some of these people over a period of time, that got certified by the Rubber Skill Council of India, for example. So that's another. So leveraging whatever is there, and but unfortunately, what we have not done so far is to leverage the CSR side of it through apprentice, which I think NETAP is helping quite a bit to get there.
Yeah. No, I think it's a very valid point that mentioned by you. In fact, when we're doing the survey as well, it came out, by most of the employees saying that, when you have to do these changes, obviously it's the mindset, it's the culture, it's the infrastructure, everything needs to get changed there. And that's what I could hear from all three of you, that organizations can't really ignore these facts when they have to get started on doing apprenticeships, because I think if the intent is there, if you really want that the program to be successful or the system to be successful, all these changes have to be made in tandem to ensure that apprentices learn and they're able to flourish, and that's how they become part of your organization as well. Rajeev, coming back to you again on this, since you've been doing in the kind of preparation 100%, you have your absorption rate as well. What's the kind of visible, or I would say tangible or intangible outcomes that you see by doing apprenticeships or by engaging apprenticeships?
I think the very visible and reliable is the kind of trustworthy talent pool at the ground level, which has been trained for the purpose that we want. I mean, for very much suited for what we want at that level. Okay. So, and that is much more reliable workforce in a setup that we have. And that's where infrastructure and taking care of those people is important in playing the attrition. But having said that, I also mentioned that it is around 20-25% attrition that we have seen in this group. So that's one. Second, I also seen that some of these people who kind of remain engaged with the company, I have seen them at least 5 or 6% of the entire population of apprentices. They really fast track their move in the hierarchy or in the job. So that's another way that some of the shift supervisor or even section officers, etc., we have seen them coming from the school. Okay. So that's good advantage. But what I have not seen so far, and that's something that we need to invest more in it, is somebody becoming a plant manager.
Okay.
Faster than generally they take. So that kind of thing is still to catch up. But more importantly, I think reliability of the workforce that has been trained through the system, that what we need in terms of skills and obviously the behavior side of it. So it's a mix of both. Keeping aside the attrition that we always see. I would say the reliable workforce that we have created is the most visible outcome that I have seen. Okay. Not on the money side, money is different.
But would you also want to, when you say reliable, it's only in terms of their belongingness or their, their trustworthiness that you're able to create, but also what about your view on the productivity of these people whom you are grooming through apprenticeships? Would you also say that the reliability in terms of productivity, or do you think that's a separate parameter to be gauged?
No, so like I said, 5 or 6%, which is quite a good number, that they have progressed fast track. So I would say that all are equal, some are more equal than others. So in a group of 100, if 5 or 10 people have fast tracked their career to become the section officer supervisor, that's really a good outcome.
But how's that? Is there any way that has made an impact to your business in terms of the output, the quality, errors, rates, or the wastages, or anything of that sort? Do you think that kind of impacts because of the not productive resources? So does that in that way impact mathematically? Does that impact your business as well?
I would say that it is not about productivity in real sense, like piece value or something, but what comes alongside the productivity is the safe working, quality of the product that is being worked on. the kind of maintenance issues, that troubleshooting, problem solving, some of those things which helps you be more efficient in what you're producing. So it will be an exaggeration if I say that these apprentices have improved my productivity by 20% in the first 6 months or 1 year. I think that has not happened. But whether it has not happened after they becoming a shift supervisor or something, answer is yes. They bring improvement, they bring some different insight. But what is the most gainful thing which has happened is in terms of safety, quality, and cost efficiency.
Sure.
That is the important one that goes alongside.
Sure. Ritu, what's your take on it, considering that you've had past experience of doing apprenticeship? So I think I would have two questions for you in that case. What have you witnessed in past about the benefits of apprenticeship, and what are the benefits that you're expecting it in your current organization?
Yeah, I think so. Like Rajeev being an industry veteran, he already has covered most of the things. I don't have anything more to add, but yeah, I think so. It is a as a society, unless and until you include everybody and make them gainfully employed, no society, no country can progress. And that's a view that I definitely should, have to share in this one. Like the kind of people who joined us and all the families changed overnight in terms of like uh, their mothers would be working as cooks, maids, and all, and whatever it is, the first decent wage coming home, and they could see that after a year or 2 year program, they would be employable in the industry. So it just changes homes, it changes the community, it changes the society at large. So that's a great benefit that I definitely see from this, apart from whatever Rajiv mentioned, which is cost, talent, pipeline, trustworthiness. They're more reliable, and also that's the societal view that I have experienced. In terms of what I would be expecting, I think so. I would be expecting similar things to continue. In fact, there's a lot of confusion in terms of there are multiple programs and all. It requires to be merged together to become more stronger as a program. More advocacy is needed around it, and so it just makes it much more stronger. And the industry participation for the upliftment of the youth is much more robust.
Sure. So what I think it's mostly the social impact side of it. What you're seeing that is the benefit that you see, that how it has impacted the livelihood there. Sure. Great. What about you, Ashish? What's your take on what are the kind of benefits that your organization has been witnessing by doing apprenticeships or by engaging with apprentices?
So as Rajiv has already touched on a lot of points, and Ritu has added. So I'll just add few from our side from a Dixon perspective. What we have seen is that over the past quarter on quarter, there has been surge in terms of absorptions of these apprentices with social security benefit, and what it entails is that you get a lesser reduced cost of hiring when you getting a kind of trained apprentices, so that in a way if you see the whole overall your strategy of hiring strategy, so yet it fits in. And also from our perspective, of course, we see that it in a way reduces your cost of hiring, that you already have got a trained manpower coming in, which is in pipeline. And also, I would slightly add on to what Rajiv said. Yes, of course, it's not as quantifiable in terms of data when you say that the productivity is enhanced by X or by Y. But what definitely it does is that if you have a trained manpower, it does reduce the chances of error in terms of where your production is going on, because your manpower is trained. It's an on-job training, and therefore it definitely reduces your error chances. And in a way, effectively, if you add on, it does impact your productivity in a positive manner. What it also does, as I mentioned, is creates a talent for the organization, and also, of course, if you built it upon for the society. But yes, overall, as I said, it has been a win-win situation for us in terms of the outcome. because you get a talent pool from wherein you can choose, and it also reduces your hiring time. And these are the few added advantages and positive outcome that I have seen. So
Sure.
yeah.
So against build versus buy, it seems to be like building seems to be much more beneficial, cost effective, to have your talent people. So I think very interesting thoughts and points coming out here in terms of the productivity and belongingness. I mean, talk about social impact, about the cost impact of the talent. I think that would be really encouraging for the organizations to get into the apprenticeships. But one of the things which come up time and again, which you guys have highlighted, is in the entire system part of it, that how complex it is. I mean, Ritu mentioned that they didn't even aware, the organization wasn't even aware about system called apprenticeships. Rajeev mentioned about the complexities which is there. There's so many things which are happening. You really do not know. It's very confusing for the employees to get which one to choose, how to go about doing it. So, we'd just like to understand from all of you, since all of you have experience in doing apprenticeships, and what are the kind of recommendations or suggestions you would like to make for improvisation of the system so that it makes more easy for organizations like yours to execute apprenticeships seamlessly? That would also encourage more employees, because if something which is easy to do or gets more simplified thing, I think more and more employees can come forward and start doing it. I think many of the employers, they kind of refrain themselves from doing it. In fact, one of interesting points that came out in one of our reports, the Apprenticeship Outlook report, is that 48% of the organization of the respondents said that either they were not aware about the system, even if they were aware, they did not understand the system. And 48% is a huge chunk. Another interesting stat I would like to bring about here is that there are about 125,000 employers that are registered onto the apprenticeship portal. And just about 20 to 25,000 organizations are actively engaging with apprentices. So which is typically about 1/5 of the organizations who are registered on the portal are doing it. Why? Because there is clear-cut an intent to do it. Is it that it's so cumbersome for an organization to do, because of which they kind of refrain from doing it? I think that's a question, and that's a point that a lot of policy makers or the makers need to kind of think about it, that what is it that need to be done to make it more simplified. But would like to hear from all of you that what would be your recommendations, being coming in from your actual experience, which would kind of ease the whole aspect of apprenticeship in our country and for the organizations. So any one of you, please, who would like to go first?
I think so. There is a need for a strong advocacy in terms of, when you're talking about 48% people, 48% of the organization didn't even knew about it. I think so. Duroflex will count itself in that number. And after that, also, there is a sizable number of people, organizations who knew about it, but still did not leverage it. I think so. It requires some more of advocacy in terms of making the program more popular, simpler, in terms of easier to understand, get them, come on board. So those are the things which are needed from various aspects, from the policymakers, from, the labor officers on the field, and, the local corporates, block development authority, whatever, NGOs and all can get together to, popularize this program. From the other side could be an impact stories. It will be great to hear many impact stories coming out of like how somebody who has joined and rises up. I'm sure like there would be definitely huge number of stories where a person would have become a plant manager as well. We are not aware of, but there could be. So it is all about like, finding those gems and those things and making it popularized. So like Mary Kom won a wrestling tournament, and many girls started taking up as a career. I think so having those success stories showcased at a large scale will make many people to look at an alternate career, or maybe a path to a career that way. Lastly, I think so industry should never look at this talent as a cheap labor. There needs to be respect and a true sense in which this program should be implemented. This is from my side.
Sure. So I think referencing or the advocacy in terms of the brand ambassadors or the ambassadors for the program, that would, you're saying that would encourage more or more
Yeah.
youth to possibly come ahead and do it. Also, you mentioned about, that how we can possibly look at, simplifying the stuff so that, more organizations can possibly look at. So awareness, the whole messaging, the communication aspect, the marketing aspect of apprenticeship also needs to happen on a larger side. Fantastic. What about the others? What do you have to say on that?
I just like to add on to what Ritu said. A few things from my side. I would say also in terms of awareness, of course, it's not a brainer. That has to be done. It's less is more in that aspect. So the more you do, the more awareness you create. And as she rightly also pointed out, that one should not look at it as some kind of a source for cheap labor. No, of course, it should be looked at with a very positive impact stories around it, so that of course it creates a positive awareness on the whole thing. At the same time, I would say there are a lot of MSMEs in India, and what possibly the government could do if they simplify the whole structure, the whole system, the implementation part. If they break it down, thinking and getting into the shoes of MSME, also by way of some kind of soaps, soaps they can come up for these MSME to encourage and to get in more apprentices. Not only will that align with the government of India program of creating a lot of employment opportunities, at the same time they also will cater to the needs of these MSME. And at the same time, for the society, it will increase more employability. So, of course, as we are harping upon, simplification is the need of the hour, and also awareness has to be created. More realistically, it has to be looked at from an MSME perspective. And from our perspective, we would request if the quota, the government can, raise the quota that they have fixed on the Apprenticeship Act, the limits that they have put between 15 average to 18 maximum, so that if that can be taken up, go higher up, it will really help to absorb and train more apprentices and create future talented pool of people. So that's from my side. Thank you.
So talking about simplified system, first of all, a strong governance so that there is no, abuse of these apprentices. I think the same thing also came from Ritu as well. You're talking about more simplified system for more MSMEs to come forward, because that's where the potential lies. And if systems are more simple for them, obviously they can absorb more apprentices, and also talking about the tax breaks which could be available, or the benefits which could be offered to MSME, so that they are encouraged to take more apprentices. And I think some of the good pointers are coming in from yours. And of course, the last one you also mentioned was on about improving or increasing the quota, so that more people could be absorbed or can be inducted into apprenticeships. Great. Rajeev, what's your thought on that? What's your recommendations?
I think more or less what they have, Ritu and Ashish have spoken, I think that remains the fundamental of the expectations. What I would like to add further is, like, the government seems to be trying to do too many things in the name of developing skills or developing a skilled society. So in a way, what is happening that one is not talking to the other. So therefore, we are seeing a parallel stream of actions, initiatives, but there is no initiative around it. So measure of success or measure of these things are not visible. So therefore, the first thing that I would certainly like to expect or recommend to the authorities in charge is that how do you merge all these parallel flows of building skills through apprentices, through vocational trainees, through skill development, and also the mindset is that apprenticeship is all about manufacturing sector, whereas the entire job market, quick turnaround, is happening in the services side of it or in IT side. Right? That's one. Two, to cater to that need, you have a skill development program. Prime Minister Seva, development PM SKY or something like that is parallel stream, right? So there you become a nurse, or whether you become this over 3 months duration or 5 month duration, right? So you understand that how confusing it is when you go out there on the ground, that who do I choose and why should I choose? And if somebody is wanting to go in the glamorous world of whether it's hospitality or whether retail, etc., why will somebody come to manufacturing to learn the fitter job or electrician job? So that's a manufacturing disadvantage for attracting some of these people to sustain the pipeline. So like the government is also specifying or simplifying wage code or tax rules, etc. This is also one area that need to be simplified, so that there is one reference point. The second is society, company has to be fully aware, or rather should be open, and the government can help to make sure that it is not wishful thinking or by exception that you do this and you get this much of CSR or this much of advantage or tax. It has to be uniform so that everybody is attracted to us in doing it. We contribute PM fund, we contribute to in so many things, we don't know what's happening there, but this is a very visible impact that one can attract all the time. Third is also creating the awareness or enforcement through some of these channels, social channels, whether it's NGOs or whether this, so if everybody is joining together, then it will. Having said that, there is also a need to drive a very focused approach towards creating a skill India through this apprenticeship route. And that is to create some diversity. Why not we have a special drive only for, say, women's side of it? Because even in manufacturing, for example, women workforce is to the zero. If you look at diversity quotient, it will be almost like zero, right? On the shop floor or in a plant level. How do I encourage that? So there has to be some extra incentive for doing that. Incentive in the sense, one is qualitative, one is financial, but more importantly is going beyond the defined is plan. So that's something that can be looked at. So sum up two things: simplify, simplify, simplify.
I think simplify is a very common agenda which everybody wants to drive. But I think one of the pointers which you highlighted on the diversity, how do we get more women folk into the labor market? How do we get them into the job market? It could be apprenticeship could be the route, and can those employers be incentivized for, having more women in the organization, maybe through the form of apprenticeships. So fantastic. I think that was a good discussion we had around how to leverage apprenticeships, what the benefits, how you as an organization need to prepare, and definitely that huge amount of awareness drive that has to happen both with the youth as well as with the employers, and have a more simplified system to make it more enabling for everybody to get into apprenticeships. Thank you so much for, three of you, for your views, sharing your experiences. Let's see if there are any questions. Okay, so I think the one which is coming out, how to glorify the degree apprenticeship, how it can help your organization. So I think, Ashish, you mentioned something about the degree apprenticeship. Would you want to take this question on how to glorify? Glorify is basically how to make a degree apprenticeship more attractive. I would like to just substitute. In fact, there's another related question which says that, do you feel that higher education should be mandatory in apprenticeship, which can help to uplift the lifestyle of freshers? So I think that we will leave. Okay, let's have your views on these two questions from everybody.
So I would say, as Ritu was also mentioning, and as this question says, that the positive impact, we have to highlight some impact, positive examples which can create and really glorify in the rights perspective their contribution towards. So if you talk from a typical manufacturing industry perspective, it's kind of still a very labor intensive, and what happens is these apprentices, with their training and over the period of the continuous on-job training, they and because not only they are learning, but also they are on the job, on the go, and they are kind of doing a dabbling both the works. And what we have seen, that these level of sincerity, when they continue, these become good line leaders, and ultimately the supervisor. And we have seen in our case, people also rising to the level of becoming the factory head or plant head. So in our case, in our 27, 28 years of journey, we have seen people who have evolved. Of course, at that point in time, Apprenticeship Act was there in 1961 also. Now it has been named, renamed multiple times in 2016, and again amended in 2019. And now NAPS has come in, and a lot of structures have been built, and further there are a lot of work to go about it. But again, as I said, you take those case studies in your organization, highlight it on your shop floor across the organization. You can put those people and highlight them as a positive example, and that's how it will help you to attract and retain those apprentices. That these are your people. This is a live example. They have grown. They joined as an apprentices, and today they are leaders. So that's how you'll be able to create an impact in your organization.
Sure. What about both of you? How do you think that apprenticeship, if integrated with higher education, can help the uplift the youth, or let's say basically, how do we, uplift the youth or the freshers? You can say that. So, do you think, how do we integrate both of them? How can we leverage on that?
I think so. While higher education is a voluntary thing, like many people might want to go ahead because once they have, say for example, they have like the electrical field and they would like to do a diploma or engineering and all those things. Maybe, we should have things like having subsidized education loan for this section, a segment of the society. Instead of giving so many waivers on the other side, it is much better to promote higher education through giving subsidized loan for people who complete their apprenticeship and they are showing a pension for a higher education. I think so that's a more positive way of aligning both the things together.
Sure. Rajeev, your take on it.
So I would say that it has got both pros and cons. So if you're asking that if I make higher education mandatory for apprentices, will it help them? First of all, are they ready for higher education? That's also becomes very individual based, right? Second, once they are in the same league like you or other campus hires or anything, then you have a problem that you need to face up, because you are creating expectation at the same time you have something already existing. So how do you balance these two stream of conflicting or relative happiness who will derive from each other? Diploma versus graduates, every company has gone through that same thing, that when we have diploma trainees, they start comparing that why graduates are getting paid more than why IIT is getting so much paid when I do the same job.
But Rajeev, isn't that more of a casteism even in the education also in that case?
Right. So it could be. So I'm saying that there is no. I would rather say there is no direct answer for this. It depends on the context, how you want to encourage apprenticeship in the company. But at the same time, I would certainly say that this is kind of passport to success. By enrolling yourself in apprentices, at least you have cleared the first level. You got the passport that now you're employable. Now it is up to you what visa you want to bring on it. Whether you want to get a US visa or you want to get Europe visa, that depends on you. That's your aspiration. That's your motivation,
inclination, your aspirations, both.
and the support. So once we see that kind of, as an organization, if you're seeing some spark, some motivation, aspiration of that kind, by all means we should support that. But end of the day, you have to glorify. I think the first question is about glorifying. So it has to be glorified that on LinkedIn you see lots of stories going about some cycle man or somebody who walked 50 kilometers on without stopping, etc., etc. But no apprenticeship seems to have been getting that kind of spot, which Ritu was saying, that we need to share those stories. So peer success becomes the biggest motivator in some way or the other. So why not encourage that peer success?
Sure. I think our take as an organization has been that how do you make vocational education more aspirational by blending degrees with the, let's say apprenticeships, and how we can help the youth move more upward, that upward mobility kind of a thing. So I think that's where as an sure.
So Rajeev, just wanted to add one thing. I think very great program has been started, initiated by TeamLease, Mechatronics. On that, where apprentices with the job, let's say an IITI was joined, and he continues to be an ITI and apprentice, but when they enroll in this course, he might well has a chance to earn a degree. So I think that's a great initiative that has been initiated by TeamLease Skill University. So that's one program that again apprentices can look at it as
that's more thanks Ashish, but that's more in line with the new education policy, which is
right.
This aspect. There's one more question we will possibly take, is that with Ashish, so it says it's hi Ashish, but I think it's Rajeev who mentioned this, that in which job role you are deploying apprentices and what is the ratio of gender diversity. So I think Rajeev, you mentioned about this gender thing, but Ashish, in case if you also have some gender diversity, if you want to throw that as well. So both of you, if you could take this question.
So I'll also, again, I leave it to Rajeev, but I also wanted to share in our, Tirupati factory, one of our verticals, we have also experimented with female, apprentices, and it has been a astounding success. So of course, not only you tend to increase and work towards your diversity ratio in the organization, and B, we have seen them more in terms of so as to say, self-driving and more discipline. So that has also we have also experimented with one of our entire vertical, and now what we have done is we are taking it forward to other verticals also. Because we have seen good results. So that has been, of course, our take. So I would very much agree with what Rajeev has said, and Rajeev can add on to this question.
Sure, Rajeev, what's your diversity ratio when it comes to in the apprenticeships?
So I would say, so like I said, in absence of any framework, legal framework, etc., we experimented with having a focused women apprentice program where we hire almost like 50-60 people, women from Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha and all, got them to go through the training, etc., etc. So that was a full-fledged women apprentices. So out of 300, if I say that over a period of two years, if I have recruited 300, it's 50-50. Interestingly, attrition rate among the women apprentices are much lesser compared to the other side. And I think the proof is in the pudding. So if you go to one of the plants that is there in Gujarat, which where I was referring to, that is full-fledged one shop floor, which is the truck tires, which is made by women. At the same time, the success story was such a good thing that we replicated that in the new plant which is coming in Visakhapatnam. So that's again is going to be having a kind of a more women led shop floor, mostly more than what it used to be earlier. So again, like I always say, the diversity is not a number game. We should not be chasing a number that I want to have 20% diversity. Then you're losing out on the main purpose. Diversity is also about bringing different thought process, bringing in efficiency, mindset, and that definition is always there, whether you're on the shop floor or whether you're in the boardroom. I think diversity is not just because what we are talking about gender diversity, which is first maybe a step. But now even gender has got many definitions. So we should be conscious of that, how as a society we are evolving, and those diversity and inclusiveness need to be kept in mind when you are devising something new for the organization and for the company that you're working for or in large in the society.
Great. So thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your thoughts on diversity. Ritu, any thoughts on that? But yes, could be also food for thought for you when you're doing your apprenticeships,
Yeah, we are just doing a baby steps here, so I'm not sure how would diversity be, but yes, anytime people with different backgrounds, various gender orientation, whatever, the various bifurcations that we have, all would be welcome.
Fantastic. So with that, I think we'll just wrap up our session. We have also kind of exceeded our timeline. So thank you so much, all three of you, for joining us today. I think it was wonderful talking to three of you, hearing your experiences. And I'm sure we've done some justice, to the HR fraternity, or to the businesses rather, I would say, that if they get motivated and get started on doing apprenticeships. So thank you once again for joining us today.